So the next topic for our panel discussion is current scenario of natural ingredients in pharma, a very difficult topic though, but a very, very competent panel to handle this discussion. Before I start the discussion, Ladda sir, it was really an honor to hear you, and I think many students were just, not only students, dignitaries were mesmerized to have you here. I mean, it was an honor. Thank you so much for coming. So let's start with Dr. Sunita. Ma'am, we all were just listening to your accolades and achievements. I think it's an honor to be here and having a panel discussion with you. So, what is the current scenario of natural ingredients in pharma? Are there any natural ingredients being used in pharma, or what is happening around that?
Good evening, everyone. I'm not used to sitting and talking much, so I just half standing kind of. Since last 2 days in this conference, I think all of you know more than me about this question, what has been happening. And Dr. Ladda just took us through the journey of so many phytochemicals. With my experience in pharma industry, they have been using a lot of natural ingredients, and as this title says, natural specialty ingredients. I just read it as natural hyphen specialty ingredients. Means natural from natural bioactives, specialty ingredients. I'm just giving my perception of the title as I took it. So they have been using, I'll complete that sentence, they have been using natural ingredients, but not completely, I think. Like we just saw some of the examples which Sir gave, Dr. Ladda gave, that there are so many phytochemicals present, but these phytochemicals, unless you isolate them, characterize them, and then relate them with a bioactive, as a bioactive molecule or therapeutic activity, they are not really useful. You have to isolate these bioactives, and then you have to show that they are active with some therapeutic activity. What I have been doing, we have been doing in our lab is that instead of isolating it out, which is a daunting task we have seen, we take enriched extracts. So I feel that pharma industries should more encourage these enriched extracts, which would have the address of not just one bioactive, but it may have 3, 4, 5 bioactives. And we know that these bioactives, say for example, gallic acid, ellagic acid, or solic acid, which are useful in female reproductive disorders also, can be used. So in pharma industry, they have been used, in short to conclude it, they have been used, but not to the fullest potential of these phytochemicals. Also, just 1 minute I'll take here, a few seconds more I'll take here, is that there is also related variability with all these phytochemicals. So I think it is not so much in favor currently with pharma industries unless they have the experts, specialists there who know about the plants, who will give you the proper plants and proper bioactives isolated. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, madam. Moving on to Dr. Menon. What steps are being taken at the academic or industrial research or the government level to push the use of natural ingredients in pharma? Now here there's a pertinent point that Dr. Sunita mentioned, that there are not maybe enough experts who understand those phytoextracts. So is there a dearth of cross-functional expertise happening? Is there a dearth of that?
Yeah, I would also start with Dr. Ladda's talk. He mentioned a very interesting thing, that how one company wanted him to add the phytochemical in the extract and show that it is more. Today, that's the unfortunate thing. You get aloe vera extract with so much percent aloe. We still don't know whether it is truly aloe vera extract, because Sunita is there, she is much expert in botany. Most of these, phytochemicals that we talk about, therapeutically active, are secondary metabolites. And this plant produce this mainly when they are under stress. So if you grow aloe vera in a very nice, luxurious way, the allicin content, aloin content, everything goes down. So it's very important that how the farmer cultivates. So there are a lot of technology that has gone in today to, of course, see that this kind of things doesn't happen.
Okay.
What is another thing which is missing is the government. As Dr. Ladda said, Ayush is doing quite a lot of work to bring it up. I'll give you a simple analogy. When we take paracetamol tablet, any brand, normally the dose is very clear, it is 500 milligrams of paracetamol. If you take any of the Ayurvedic product, he said Trikatu, or any other simple vati, they'll tell you the ingredient, but we are not sure whether it is 10 milligram, 200 milligram or 500 milligram. This Ayush advisor who was there during this talk with our manufacturers, we had a nice meeting. The manufacturers were crying. They're saying we are small scale industry, we are medium scale industry, we don't have HPLC, we don't have GC. But this advisor was very strong. He said, if you can't tell me that your Trikatu is containing so much of pipeline, stop your production. I mean, today even a small scale industry which is making a paracetamol has to show the purity and assay. Why should we take Ayurvedic product or so-called herbal product or so-called nutraceutical containing phytochemicals without proper label claim? So this is what government is trying to push. So all the things that he was talking about, the Ayurvedic pharmacopoeia has come. They are now revamping the Ayurvedic formulary. There is going to be a directive on nutraceuticals because we are now trying to recognize reverse pharmacology because there is so much of history of our traditional use of herbs. So can we, like she just mentioned, use enrich extract and do very simple trials and try to bring it in the market. Basically as a adjuvant therapies to the normal modern therapy. So, but the manufacturers are the biggest hurdle. They just don't want to use technology which is mandatory in a modern medicine. I don't know why. Why shouldn't I know my Chyawanprash is having so much of vitamin C? I mean, there is a joke actually. There is so much of Chyawanprash produced in India that so much of amla, whether grown in India, is not very clear. So how much, what is going into Chyawanprash, we don't know.
Yeah, true.
So
we had a small discussion on Chyawanprash yesterday. So if you see the audience,
we missed it. So maybe quickly you can just tell us.
So in fact, my first job with a very big corporate, not very professional to name it, and there was a project to see a particular brand had given their Chyawanprash for testing. And the person who was testing it came up very surprisingly. A close friend, we were standing close by, came back saying that, यार इसमें तो च्यवनप्राश लग ही नहीं रहा है, आंवला लग ही नहीं रहा है. We went to our boss, submitted it to him. He said, keep it here, I'll see. Next day he said, no need to discuss. So we were very new and naive, so we didn't know what to say. After a couple of days he called us and said exactly the same words, जितना आंवला इंडिया और बांग्लादेश में बनता है उससे डबल तो च्यवनप्राश बिकता है. मैंने कहा सर जाता क्या है वो तो बता दो, मतलब एटलीस्ट बाकी कुछ नहीं बताओगे तो. कहते लौकी जाती है उसमें, वेलकम टू द कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड, एंड he just started working.
So, sir, you have given the answer that what is happening in pharma industries, because we are academicians. So maybe just one more thing, since we are talking about it, like Dr. Ladda spoke about coleus phoscolin. Initially, when the work was going on in Hext, my brother was involved, so I knew about it also. Sir, initially when coleus phoscolin, when they were trying to extract phoscolin from there, it used to come from Uttarakhand.
Yeah.
And I remember a botanist used to go specially to that place and collect it. Because phoscolin content, which whatever plants were available here, was very less. So, sir, this is the variation. And because of this variation also, there is a problem for using herbals in pharma industries. I think that's also, I feel, a very important point. Thank you.
Can we have the mic with Dr. Ladda, please?
Yeah, I think we can call sir here only.
Sir, there is something which I personally also want to know. Let's leave the panel discussion aside for 1 minute. There's always this fight, ज्याला मराठीमध्ये द्वंद्व म्हणतात मनामध्ये, आयुर्वेदा, homeopathy or allopathy. Now, all of it leads to ingredients, finally, because the perception that general public has, whether technocrats or non-technocrats, is that medicine, typical medicine, is all about chemicals. Ayurveda is all about naturals, and homeopathy, God knows, I don't know what is it about. So, what?
Well, if you look at the aim of all the system is to healthcare.
Yeah.
Aim is same.
Yeah,
There's no different.
true.
Okay. So I think we should complement each other. Whatever is good, we pick it up and take it further.
But sir, the entire confusion around this, what I completely understand what you're trying to say, but the entire confusion in the mind of any consumer is, if I eat this chemical, is it going to damage? So what is being portrayed is what is more natural, what is more Ayurvedic, is good for health. Medicines are not good for health. So this is not the forum where we get into this discussion. But to continue from what I asked to Dr. Menon, is this entire confusion because there is a dearth of cross-functional resourcing or cross-functional intelligence being put into this industry? Is there a dearth of it?
No, I think proper education should be passed on to the masses, most important. Okay, and it is not, see, most of the Ayurvedic drug has led to the API. If you look at Rolfia serpentina, reserpine has come from that. It has become a property of the now allopathy. So it is not that plant do not have. And even today, if you ask me which is the best hepatoprotective drug, it is silymarin, which is continued to be obtained from the plant only. There is no other alternative to that. So it is not that the plant do not have the capacity. Only thing that the way in which Ayurveda was practiced today, unfortunately, due to the extensive commercialization, they're unable to resort to those ancient processes, and with the result, I think today whatever the medicine which they are selling it doesn't have that kind of efficacy. So according to me, I think the good amount of research should go into the Ayurveda, what was happening in the traditional processes, and we should simulate that processes, taking into consideration the modern technology, without compromising any good content from that. And that is what currently, according to me, the most modern manufacturer, they switched to the modern methods without realizing whether the traditional knowledge which was there, whether it is getting passed on with the modern technique. That is a big lacuna, I feel.
I completely agree with sir. Absolutely, sir. That is what you just said. Crux of the things is that you take ahead these traditional formulations and use all modern techniques and prove and show to the world that this is how it works. That's really the thing.
Sir mentioned about knowledge, I mean the information to masses. It's my personal experience which I would like to share with the audience. We have published a paper on Tinospora recently. It came during the COVID times that people started using Tinospora left, right and center. There were people growing Tinospora in their kitchen window and everybody was taking the stem, leaf and everything. And even Ayush had put it on their website that Tinospora can be had. And this came through a doctor friend of mine. She called me up, said, Dr. Menon, I'm getting lots of patients with liver cirrhosis. And one common thing I found in many of them is that they were all using this kada of Tinospora. So Guduchi, and then everybody was using either the stem, somebody was using leaf, and somebody was buying it from the market. But all of them were having. So they had a idea that probably there is some connection. So we also did some study at the extracts and so on. What we found was very interesting, that Tinospora is known to be an immunomodulator. I mean, it's known for it. All these patients also had some immune compromised autoimmune problems. Like osteoarthritis was there, rheumatoid arthritis was there in many of them. And when they took this in larger amount, because it's in Ayurveda, it is to be given only under the monitoring of a Vaidya. You cannot just take it. There is a dose properly mentioned for it. And these people are taking excess of it. And they all had aggravation of their internal autoimmune problems. And that led to liver cirrhosis. Moment they stopped and they had to be given complete treatment. When we first initially published this paper, there was lot of questions from Ayush. Direct phone calls. What is this? What are you writing? This is Anand. I mean, Guduchi is so famous in Ayurveda. How can you say it is toxic? But it has to be seen there is a subpopulation in human who can have such problem. You cannot just generalize. So traditional doesn't mean safe. And I personally believe, and even she will agree, that in our experience, I always say, go for traditional medicine as an adjuvant. Don't go it for 100% cure. If you have BP or if you have sugar, your modern drugs will bring down in half an hour. You will not have that kind of extract of plant which will act so fast. But the side effects of this modern drug will not be there in your extract. That is true. But so adjuvant approach would be much better. So complement each other, as sir said.
So I think yesterday we also discussed that Google Uncle and WhatsApp University also need to be checked in this case. Moving over to you, Mr. Patel. Again, the question is being repetitive, but it is being now made industry specific. What is the current industry spend on R&D for using green products in pharma? Because you come from industry background, you have a superb laboratory where you research a lot of products. What is your take on that?
Yeah, in the morning session, I think we repeated this question that it is about 7 to 15% of the global trend.
So that's also in pharma, because that time we were talking about the entire industry.
So yeah, it is in the general pharma, but now you ask especially for the green.
Yes.
So I don't think there is a separate, everybody is segregating that much I would spend on the green and that much on pharma like that. It is business. So in the business, there are strategies. Those who wants to start to make the profit immediately on the immediate this thing, they will go for the normal thing. And now the green and everything will be just like yesterday Rajil said, that it is for after 5 years, that is what you have to invest into it. So for that, those people, their strategy is like that, they will go for the green. They increase more spend on the green. So research. So that will, but I don't think exact data or anything. I don't have exact data about that.
Okay, but investing in R&D as an industrialist, how feasible is it, or what is the gestation period? Because here there are a lot of students who would be aspiring to become entrepreneurs. So the only thing that is going to make them survive is their own research and development. So what would be your message? I mean, should it be an incremental innovation or a disruptive innovation that they should look at from the beginning? How do you look at it?
The first thing is that it's a whatever we said, that 7 to 15% of the revenue and whatever we talk, that is for the established industry and whatever revenue you are getting. But your now question is changed to the startups. Now when there is a startup and when they go for the startup, it is what they want to do. So they want to do, so that's why going for the startup, they will research something and they want to do something like that. So there is no choice that further R&D, but that startup has to start their thing first and do at their best whatever they want to do it. And once the revenue starts generating, then they go for another R&D and everything, whatever the diversification or whatever it is.
Thank you so much. Madam, both of you come from academic background. So question is to both of you, how do you see the role of startups in pushing, I would not call them natural, but at least ethical ingredients or honest ingredients, because I'm doing my management development program in one of the most reputed IIMs in the country, and we had a case study recently, and unanimously all the top honkos there felt that if there is one industry that needs to go ethical with ingredients or honest with ingredients, is the pharma industry. Now, one of the most human effect bearing industry, and if it is being spoken, if ethics come into question, how do you see the role of startups then? not only in ingredients but in pushing ethics as well in the industry?
I think you can start.
Uh,
I think that Pushanuga Churna, you can give an example.
Also, sir, I was listening to your question. See, and to sir also, my question on behalf of students, because we are professors ourselves, that can a researcher be a startup or entrepreneur?
It is to me.
Yes, sir. To you, to sir, maybe others can also answer.
Research is doing the research because he likes that thing. But when you want to do the startup, if you like to start some business or anything, then you can start it. But only because you have researched something like that.
No, what I mean to say, a researcher means doing research in some area where he is really interested. He's come out with, especially in pharmacy colleges, he has come out with some good results. So can that be his career or her career later on?
Yeah, the career in that, say, you can say that research, only research, it doesn't mean the business. But he can go to that business, but for that, business is like this, that you should be master of, jack of all and master of one at least. None is not, I'm saying. Okay, so it should be like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, research is considered as, see sir, the questions, answers are coming. Research is considered as, it's not something you're doing wholeheartedly. You're not coming out with results exactly. It cannot be something like, which can give you returns. But I think, so now I'll come to this question, sir. What we have been actually talking about, sir spoke about Pushyanuga Churna. So what we can take as startups, what they can do is take traditional formulations and work on it for its authenticity, and they should work with complete honesty. This is what I don't know how much it's going to work in business and in pharma industry, which also includes herbal industry. I think the need of the hour is that we all should work with honesty. And I'll give you one example for that, is like in herbal industry, in biodiversity, India is one of the best. But unfortunately, the products which go out of this country or which are being used by us also are not of really good quality. There is lack of quality control, assessment, etc. So if that work is done with honesty, there will be demand of it, and there will be startups like, once again, so I'll go to the example of Pushyanuga Churna, which is being used for various female reproductive disorders. So my students worked, two of them got their PhD on this work. When we collected Pushyanuga Churna from about 6 manufacturers, Pushyanuga Churna is one formulation which is being made by every big Ayurvedic or herbal company. So when we checked the quality of it, sir, we saw so many variations in it. And then we also did the efficacy on rat model. And we really found that finally out of 6, only 2 were worth taking ahead. Now that I can say because we had made one reference formulation ourselves. So I think again in herbal and Ayurveda, this is what is needed, is we made a reference formulation using all right materials, where we did all quality assessment, and we knew that when this material says that it should have so much of gallic acid, it should have ursolic acid, we did all those methods also. And we made a reference formulation. So that was for us the right formulation. And when we compared with Pushyanuga Churna, many other formulations from manufacturers were not up to the mark. So when this is the scenario to begin with, I think research is really needed. That's for younger generation students here. Proper research with a goal where you are working properly can definitely go as startup, and where you take such formulations which are being used, but there is no data saying that how it works, how is the quality, as Dr. Ladda has also spoken about it. We had done a project of Ayush for Government of India, where we made 26, we made SOPs for 26 formulations, Ayurvedic formulations, which found place in Ayurvedic Pharmacopoeia of India. So that's a big thing for us from Ruya College. Both of us were a part of it. We also made SOP of Kumkumadi Tela, Jatyadi Tela, Anu Tela, and each, just to tell you, like, for example, Kumkumadi Tela had 30 plant ingredients, and then there were minerals, and then there was bile of ox, which is responsible for slow bleaching. That's why it's used for fairness, Kumkumadi Tela. So there are fantastic formulations, Ayurvedic formulations, which are, the details are given in Ayurvedic Pharmacopoeia about the ingredients, Ayurvedic formulary. So startups can start, I think, some work in this direction. Do it with honesty, complete honesty. Because there are many scary things like you increase ursolic acid, you add it to some plant of tulsi and show that that is in high content. That is the reality, actually, what is going on in pharma industry, unfortunately. I think sir can add to that.
Yeah, one thing is there, as a startup, it's very easy to sell a nutraceutical. You make tulsi oil, it will sell. Because everybody believes it is tulsi oil, it is smelling and it will sell. And that's what is happening. Now, but if you want to grow and sustain your industry or sustain your business, I think you need to have a very clear understanding of your material that you're using and your vendors. The main problem is vendors. You know, every company needs continuous supply of these plant material, these extracts, and every vendor has its own certification of how this extract is. So we do a lot of work for the industry where we give them certification parameters for certain plant extracts. So you say you use this and tell your vendor to match this. Then you have a sustainability of your product. So as startups, if you are going in for nutraceuticals or any kind of herb or phytochemical based products, stick to the quality of the raw material and ensure that it comes from the vendor in complete quality that you want. And that's where I would say that we need experts like Dr. Ladda who would help us to bring that particular level of purity of your raw materials. And then, compromising is not going to sustain your business.
That's a very pertinent point. And one thing I would like to mention, there was some student among the participants yesterday from the pharma background who also mentioned, whilst we were discussing about natural ingredients in cosmetics, the student also mentioned that we are ready to incorporate but would the supply chain back it up? I was very happy to listen that the term from a pharma student, that whether they use natural ingredients or not, but students now are thinking about the supply chain as well. So that's where good teachers and colleges come into picture, where students at their graduate level start understanding. I think, sir, you have a pertinent point here, but again...
Can I add something there?
Yeah,
because
sure.
It just struck me because I just finished that project.
Yeah.
Onion oil, nowadays you see a lot of ads with hair oils containing onion oil. Onion oil is a very expensive ingredient to be added into the oils. We had a company who had come to us and they wanted some method by which the sulfur compounds, volatile sulfur compounds could be estimated. We had to use a GC-FPD system. Now this is not available with the industry so often.
Yeah.
So if you go into that kind of accuracy, then of course you can sustain the quality of that onion oil. You won't believe they gave me some 6 different vendors who had given them onion oil and only one of them turned out to be really good onion oil. So this is where the supply chain, as you rightly mentioned, it's very important for the product sustenance.
Sir, can I earn a Cadbury if I guess the brand?
No, this is the raw material.
I'm just joking. So again, one question to you. There is, as industry, we see a pent-up demand or a delta demand, as we call it, for a lot of natural ingredients. I'm sure Mr. Patil also would be getting a lot of such inquiries. Now, because you do a lot of research also, is it really a pent-up and a delta demand, or is the world moving in that direction now?
I will agree with that. There is a big demand and there is a change in the consumer perception, which the companies are starting to, capitalize. I'll give you an example. Recently, there was a demand by a fragrance manufacturer who is a big supplier of rose essence, and then they suddenly said that now we need to change it into more natural process. So now we are trying to develop rose essence production using yeast and fermentation. So he is already making a big profit. His company is running only on that single flagship product, but he's saying now the demand is changing. So people want natural, even synthetic. They don't want more of synthetic. They want more of naturals. So he's changing from chemical synthesis to fermentation. Same manner, there is a lot of proteins that people have identified which are coming from microbial sources, and these proteins are now going to be very important as therapeutic agents in, especially in antibiotic resistant cases. So these are changes that are happening. Companies are going into more of natural processes involving biologics as one of the alternative to synthetic. I mean, Dr. Ledda will agree with me. This is a sea change that is happening in the production process, because everybody wants that green label in their production process also.
So Mr. Patil, when to pick it up from here, when we talk about being green, being sustainable, generally it has an angle of cost. So you are a very well established industrialist. How easy or difficult is it for you to move or change your production processes to suit sustainable or greening practices?
See, I'm manufacturing some few products for the pharma, especially surfactants. But the pharma industry is very much regulated, means a lot of regulations like IP, BP, USP and all these things. So getting, first thing you need to get it, approvals and all these things, and it is very difficult to change or immediately. So it will take time, slowly.
No, but then does cost justify?
Yeah, it is a cost, because when you, just like I said, you are investing into it, so you said it is an investment or it is a cost. But for this financial year, it might be cost, but afterwards it will be investment. You can wipe up that, no?
But sir and madam both, if I have to understand the gist of what he is saying, is regulation becoming an impediment then?
See, I don't see regulation become, sorry, I'll just give that point and give you. See, what is regulators' outlook? Let's look, if you see the Indian pharmacopoeia and the definition of new drugs and whatever, even phytochemicals, their outlook is let the population get best of the products which are properly licensed and properly certified. But at the same time, the cost should not be prohibitive. Otherwise, people won't be able to take it. So they have to balance both the side. And as Patil sir very rightly said, manufacturers cannot change so fast. I'll give you a simple example. You are all aware of it. Capsule, gelatin capsule. We want vegetarian gelatin. Has it really come? No, because it's expensive. They are trying to replace, non-vegetarian gelatin to algal gelatin and seaweed gelatin. But today it is very costly. Compared to one capsule that you get, this is about 3-4 times more expensive. Now somebody can still sell it with a label saying that I am totally vegetarian. Then it would sell, but then you have to pay more cost.
Yeah.
So the market becomes small, but slowly people are trying to change. So maybe that small percentage may slowly increase. And he rightly said, today it may be an investment, but in future that may also give me good returns.
Thank you so much. So sir, now that you're being so vocal and open about it, what would you now? I am asking the question, same question which ma'am asked to both of us. What would be your message to the upcoming entrepreneurs, especially in this field that you're talking about? What would be that one message that you would want to give them?
I sincerely would advise the young entrepreneurs who are getting into nutraceuticals or any phytochemical based business, let it be cosmeceuticals or any kind of thing, be honest to the quality, because that's one major area where there is a big question mark. You will find market people selling, because this I hear from many of my clients. Dr. Menon, why are you charging us so much? The other party is making the same kind of profit. Why should I spend so much with you? This has to change somewhere, because you will see that whatever you have stuck to your honesty will take you much, much longer in the market. People make profits at a short time, but yours would be a lower profit which will sustain you for a long time, and that's what you need to look out for, because tomorrow's world is for phytochemicals and biologics. So this I always tell that my students also, that please get more involved into phytochemicals, natural molecules, bioactives, and also biologic proteins. These are going to be very, very important ingredients tomorrow. I mean, just in next, maybe in 10 years, things are going to change.
So it cannot be a coincidence. We had two panel discussions. There was one in the morning before lunch, and this panel discussion happening, and almost all the three panel members in the morning spoke that the mantra for success is honesty. And two panel members here, ma'am also spoke about honesty, sir also spoke about being honest. So it's very important for students to understand that the message of the day is very clear. You need to be honest and ethical to go ahead in life. I think, Principal ma'am, you should have one lecture on honesty.
Sir, can I add to that?
Yeah, please, sure.
I was waiting for my turn. To continue with what Sir said and what Dr. Menon said, we have a treasure of biodiversity in India. And whenever, as a botanist, as a person who is working with herbal drugs for last 20 years, I feel there is so much in your own country which is yours. You are not borrowing anything from anybody. What is lacking is that you work with honesty, ethically, and that is simple. You just use the right materials. I do understand the dilemma of pharma companies that there is no supply, like say for example, if you talk about saffron being used in Kumkumadi Tela, there is not enough supply of saffron and so many other plants. But if you work with honesty, sincerely, and as Dr. Menon said, towards it, you will definitely sustain for a longer time. I do understand there are short goals. You have to be successful. You want to be successful like Sir, but you have to work hard, you ask him. But I always feel that, of course, working hard is always there, but work with sincerity and honesty. You will go longer. You will sustain for longer time. This is for younger students. And I'm sincerely saying it. If you give good quality to people, as a consumer also I'm saying it, we will pay for it. But when I know that the quality which you have given me, somewhere you did cheating. Like say for example, I remember one shampoo, I think it was, or hair color, where they had used walnut oil in that. And they had to withdraw it from the market because actually walnut oil was not there in that, in the shampoo or hair color, right? So if you don't work sincerely, because many times, many consignments of herbal products come back to our country when the companies are exporting them because they are not of good quality. Many a times we face these situations, you know. So please see that you work with honesty, sincerity, hard work is definitely there. And then you can go longer. You can definitely go longer then. So that's my message. Thank you so much.
So I have last two questions, one for Mr. Patil and one for both of you. Mr. Patil, what are the difficulties? Now the research phase is over and you have to incorporate ingredients into your production system or the final product. What are the difficulties or impediments that you face and how do you tide over it? That is what students should want to know.
This is again, that's a same answer. It's a regulatory, it takes the time, and if you, any novel drug, if you want to introduce, you have to take the regulatory permissions from the, suppose in the one country, you take the permission, but other country has got different set of regulations. So every time you have to take, and it is a lengthy process. It's not a shortcut. Like or yesterday we were talking about the cosmetics. So there, they themselves say that there is no such a hard regulations for the cosmetics, right? Like this thing. So that is a more this thing.
And sir, to you, because both of you are talking about the opportunities in biologics or such natural molecules, and as ma'am rightly said, that India is a great country with a great amount of knowledge. But if you look at the global map, because I come from an industry background, I would like to put it like this: we don't see ourselves there. We might be very proud that we are the vaccine suppliers to world, but the truth is truth, and we have still not risen on the map. And you understand, right, what I'm saying. So how do you look at, with this young generation sitting, how is India poised, and where do you see India becoming a superpower in that fraternity?
I'm sorry, a lot of pharma companies are there. I mean, it's been my dream since I started drug toxicology. You know, my first drug toxicology study was ciprofloxacin. I mean, it's a almost over-the-counter drug now. But that's the first toxicity study that I did. And since that day, I have been dreaming that when will India have its own molecule? I mean, I don't know in the next 10 years also whether it is going to come. I mean, this is where we are. I mean, you just mentioned about vaccine. Absolutely. Hats off to those, the company who came out with Covaxin, okay, on a platform which was absolutely proven, but still they came out with it. After that, if you see, the government had openly given, invitation to any pharma companies, please start making the vaccine. How many of them came? You know, Kiran Mujumdar, she said very clear, I'm really looking at who is going to take up this challenge. Nobody came. That's because our R&D investment of our pharma is targeted to generics. Let us be very clear. Because we don't have the kind of budget in our pharma which is like 2 times the budget of Maharashtra state to get a drug into the market. So that means you are planning for the next 12 to 13 years. Even today, with all those parallel mechanism of manufacturing, still you have to spend a lot of time. We saw that happening with a vaccine. Yeah. Still they had to do a lot of time in regulatory. And as he rightly said, regulatory is definitely going to be an impediment. You know, I don't mind telling the name of the company here because it's an age-old story. We did a trial on Odomos because Dabur wanted to sell it in Europe. And the European regulatory agency said, we are not going to take your Odomos even if it is 70-year-old and people have been using left, right and center. When I was an infant, my mother has applied it on me. Balsara. They didn't take it. Yeah, Balsara was taken over by Dabur, and then we had to do a trial. KEM had to do a trial on infants to prove that it doesn't have toxicity. I mean, we never thought of it, no? Everybody in this audience, including the seniors here sitting, have used this in their infancy. So as the same thing is with our traditional knowledge, she said biodiversity is huge. We have, you know, there is a plant which has come a lot of time in the newspaper. In Ayush has been working on it. ICMR has started work on it. This plant, if you eat, stops your appetite. I mean, you don't feel hungry. tribals are using it and they know what that plant is, whatever it is. It is a vagus nerve, inhibitor. So you don't feel hungry. It's a huge potential. It's never come as a drug. It's been known since almost 10, 20 years. It's not come as a drug. I mean, there is a dearth of putting money in R&D. I mean, until that happens, I don't think we will cross. I mean, it's a very pessimistic statement, but I'm feeling bad about it to say that.
Same is the scenario in herbals also, sir. There are, as we spoke about biodiversity in India, but then every company wants to use the molecule, I would call it also, which is already there, like ginseng, they want Taxol, they want everything what is so popular already, eugenol or something. No one wants to really try out anything which is new, because then there will be a lot of studies which will have to be done on it.